Good morning, everyone. Apologies for the slight delay. It's 11:06. It's close enough. It's the day before Thanksgiving, and which is a Wednesday every year. The day before Thanksgiving is a Wednesday, but that also means it's time for Elevenses with the reps at Diesel. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us and taking a break from your cooking or prepping or not doing any of those things to join us here with our fabulous publishers representatives and our booksellers to talk about our new, upcoming, and recently released titles. I'm very excited because this is it. This is the most fun time of the year. The big books, the gifts, all of the good things are happening. There's so many amazing new releases and fun things to talk about. And we're going to talk about all of them today. Well, maybe not all of them, but as many as we can squeeze in here. Um, so I'm gonna introduce everybody, and then we're gonna get going. But we have been having some technical problems
Nope,
here.
it's nothing like that. It's just
Okay.
Mhm.
Anyway, we can hear Andrea, but she can't hear us, I think. So, um, hey, as Joey points out, it's live. It's live TV. So anyway, but let's get going because we're moving on into the hour. So joining us today, we have Julia Callahan from Hachette, and we haven't seen Julia for a while. So welcome back, Julia. We really have not seen Brittany Greenway from Macmillan for a long time. So really happy to have you here, Brittany. And Andrea Tetrick is here um, to give her from PGW to apparently give her pitches in a vacuum. So and then also joining us is the lovely Kelsey from Brentwood. No, Andrea needs no introduction. Andrew's gonna look at this later and listen to it and yeah, okay. So I think that that's a good idea. We'll start with Andrea and I will point to her and then she can do it. You know, she's a professional, so this is going to be great. Andrea's done Elevenses from a moving vehicle before, so we're good. Okay, Andrea, go. Oh,
Oh man.
you're unmuted. Go. All right. Andrea's not looking at this. We're having fun here today, folks. The day before Thanksgiving. It's all good. Um, uh, Andrea, let's see, go.
Oh, okay, great. Folks, this is so bizarre and I can't hear you, so it's absolutely insane, but let's give it a go. So good to see everybody out there, and I wanted to talk about a new crime novel by the great William Boyd. It's called Gabriel's Moon. This is from Atlantic Monthly Press, which is the um, sister imprint to Grove, and it's really nice to see that Grove has picked up Boyd after many years with work coming from the Big Five, and it's nice to see that in his late career he's able to get a lot of support from Grove, and has the ability to just really render up this amazing crime novel. Of course, he's an international bestseller, and usually writes fairly literary fiction. This is also literary, but it does have a commercial element because of the Cold War spy era subject matter. And basically, Gabriel of Gabriel's Moon, of the title, is a young man haunted by the memories of a fire that destroyed his family home and took the life of his mother. And so he's every time he falls asleep, basically dreams and images of that fire haunt him. He's an acclaimed travel writer, despite all of his post-traumatic stress syndrome disorders. And something happens when he's traveling in Africa, where he's in the Congo, where he gets on tape something that the leader of the opposition party there, Patrice Lumumba, is saying, and all of a sudden, all of the spy agencies want that tape. So he doesn't know who to trust. People are coming to him from either side, the good guys, the bad guys. We don't really know who the bad guys are. We don't know who the good guys are. He falls in love with one of his handlers from MI6. So there's a lot going on here. And the obsessional love story that runs throughout the fast-paced spy narrative is also quite amazing. And we got some good quotes from Mick Herron and John Banville, just to show you how, everybody likes this. The crime writers, the literary writers. John Banville says it's a wonderfully intricate novel of espionage and elegant skullduggery, richly imagined, meticulously researched, and unflaggingly readable. William Boyd, this is Mick Herron. William Boyd once again brings to the spy novel his particular storytelling genius. The result is brilliant fun. That is out right now, and copies at Diesel. And that runs you $28, and well worth it, especially as a holiday gift.
I love that.
It is great. I just want to add to what Andrea said. This is a terrific book. We actually got it a little bit ahead of schedule because we were in Europe and it was out there first, and picked it up, a heavy hardcover book to schlep around the globe, but well worth it. So a fantastic book. Really check it out. I think now's a great time for a good espionage thriller to sink into. Great. Christina is going to add it to her wish list. Definitely. And Atlantic Monthly's got another one coming out really soon, in a few months, which we'll be talking about too. So great job. Thanks, Andrea, who can't hear. Okay. Brittany, let's hear about your first book.
Great. Hi, everybody. So my first book is a children's title. It's called Tales from Muggleswick Wood, and it's from Bloomsbury. And it is a collection of bedtime stories. It's this beautiful little treasury. It's kind of quiet and sweet. It's very British, very darling. The illustrator is Charlie Maxey, who illustrated The Boy, the Fox, the Mole. I always script the title, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox.
We call it boy mole for short because it's like goes from smallest animal to biggest. So it's boy, it's mole, fox.
The boy, horse, the mole, right? Fox, and the horse.
Yeah.
But what I like about this one, it has sort of a throwback feel. It reminds me a lot of some of the sort of woodland animal stories that you would have grown up with, like The Wind in the Willows or the works of Beatrix Potter. It is just this sort of classic, lovely collection of stories that you can read to your children before they go to bed. And the illustrations are really quaint and woodsy and sweet. And I think it makes just a lovely holiday gift. It has a ribbon bookmark. The trim size is a little smaller, so it does feel very gifty.
Is it out now? I haven't seen it.
It was out on November 5th.
Oh, I haven't seen it because this is definitely something that I would add. I am such a huge Charlie Maxey fan. I love Boy Mole. It's on my list, my gift list every year. And people know about it, but they buy it every year. It's a fantastic book. His illustrations are so beautiful. They're simple, but they're gorgeous. Ginny wants to know what's like an appropriate age group. Any
I
all
think
ages, I
I think
think,
it's all
right?
ages. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think you can read it to kids, or it's a great sweet little book just to give for a gift, just like Boy Mole is, which I also recommend. Again, um, so um, it says okay. Joey says it says 5 and up, but I think this is the kind of thing that
So
is a great gift for anybody. So
in Edelweiss, it's so Edelweiss is our system that we use
yeah,
to communicate with buyers. It says ages 0 to 5. So usually if it says like 0+, it's all ages.
yeah, exactly. Okay, great. Thanks, Brittany, and thanks for let's find that and put it on my little wish list there. What, Andrea? Oh dear. All right. We're gonna move on to Julia.
Okay, cool. Hello everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. Um, so my first book, I thought I would. This book came out November 19th. But I wanted to call it out just because it's so beautifully done. This is called Blues in Stereo, the early works of Langston Hughes. Um, it is curated or edited by Denez Smith, who is a wonderful poet, did a poetry book called Homie, a bunch of different, he's done a lot of different wonderful poetry books, but Homie's the one I really fell in love with him when I read. And this is a collection of poems, stories, things like that, pulled from like sort of obscure literary journals that Langston Hughes wrote for or submitted to in the 1920s. So most of them are now out of print. A lot of them haven't really been read before except by experts. And this book is, I think, just a wonderful collection. It's a little bit smaller. So a nice little gifty title, almost stocking stuffery title. But for people who really love the Harlem Renaissance, Langston Hughes's work, or maybe don't know his work as well, and want a nice introduction to it, I think this one is really great. And I think with the Denez Smith's hand and also the introduction, I just think it's a wonderful book for people who are fans or might become fans of Langston Hughes.
Right, exactly. New fans, right?
Yeah.
This is such a beautiful book. I love this book so much. And it's only, whatever you said, November, whatever 19th. It was, that was like last week.
Yeah.
So it's really hasn't been hanging around that long. So another great gift idea, I think, and also just a really beautiful looking book as well. So like Christina said, she's gonna add everything to her wish list. That is the plan, Christina. Definitely. All right, Kelsey, let's go on over to you for your first book.
All right. So when I was trying to think of books that I wanted to do this week, I went to Hannah Gadsby's comedy show on Sunday night, and I was like, I love her so much. And even though her book came out in 2022, I'm going to do that. So 10 Steps to Nanette. If you don't know who Hannah Gadsby is, you should find out because she's awesome. So her first Netflix special was Nanette, and I totally suggest watching it before you read this book, because this book is sort of all about the things that happened in her life that led to this, in quotes, comedy special. It was kind of controversial because she's really great at making you laugh at something and then like absolutely bringing you down to this like devastating level. And so people either really, really loved this special or they were upset that it didn't leave that with that like feeling that you often have when you watch a stand-up special. But it's really, really fantastic. probably one of the first comedians I had seen who was doing this so well, where it was like you were laughing for the first, like, I don't know, quarter of the way, and then it became sort of like hefty, beautiful thing. So I really love her. She even talks about in the book near the beginning about this, how people, comedians, etc., were upset that it wasn't just this like uplifting, happy thing. But I think that's the beauty in it and the really fantastic thing about it. So this sort of goes through 10 parts of her life that led to this comedy special. And I definitely suggest watching it first, just because then you know what happens in the special, along with then you'll have her delightful Australian accent in your head, and you'll start reading it and you're going to really hear that on the page. And it's funny, but also, she puts a trigger warning in the beginning. There's plenty of sort of like upsetting things that you're going to read about too, but I just think it's really brilliant. I think she's brilliant, so I wanted to share it.
She is, and she's and I like that you pointed out that she's not polarizing exactly. That's not really the right word, but it is a kind of a thing where some people really just are completely on board and have been from the beginning, and then I think other people are not, maybe sometimes not sure what to make of it. But I would suggest that if you're in the latter camp, you give it a minute, because it'll come through. She really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very layered, and it's easy to miss some of this stuff because she is kind of in your face with stuff sometimes, right. But it's absolutely worth it. Thanks for this has been out for a while, but thanks for bringing it back.
Yeah, 2022, but
Also, I want to say, if you're a fan of writing, the way that Nanette is written, like the way that she turns on its head at a certain point, it is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, she's great. Joey says none of us are fans of writing here. Nope, not at all. One of my friends, it turns out, went to the high school with her, grew up with her, and now, like, whenever she's in the States, like, she stays with my friend, and apparently she's been like this, she is who she is and has been from the very beginning. So yeah,
she explains too that, like, in the US we were taken aback, some people were taken aback by this comedy style, but she was like, this is like very normal in Australia. Like, this is what a lot of stand-up is in Australia. So she was just doing what she did best, and which I think is
but she's got it.
Until I read it, know how upset some people were about it, because I just loved it so much, and I was like, oh my gosh, this was amazing and awesome, and I actually didn't realize how polarizing it kind of was.
Right, exactly. Julia points out that she's Tasmanian. My friend is from, okay, I'm taking your word for it, Julia. I don't remember the exact city my friend is from, but Tasmanian devil. Okay. Excellent. Thanks, Kelsey. I'm going to try this with Andrea. Let's see if it works.
All right, that is hilarious. Okay, as you may see, I have a different background. I'm at my Aunt Donna's house in Sacramento for the holiday, and it's quite a bright and sunny day here today. But I want to talk about something completely different, and that would be Robert Frank, The Americans. And that's from Aperture Press, and this is, arguably one of the most important books of photography to be published in the 20th century. This has had several publications over the year. This is a pretty interesting tidbit. Frank had a terrible time finding a publisher in the States back in the day. So the first publication was in France in 1958. Because the socio-political themes that run throughout the book was a bit too jarring for many of the American publishers. He basically showed America for what it was at that time, and publishers were afraid to touch it. Then in 1959, Grove Press, our beloved Grove Press, published the first U.S. edition, and that included an introduction by Jack Kerouac that this new edition by Aperture includes. Back in 2008, Robert Frank worked with Aperture to put together like all of the make sure that all of the images had the right. They did a bunch of duotone work on the prints, and to make sure that everything looked correct, and that all of the text, accompanying text, was where he wanted it. So that means a lot. He entrusted Aperture to continue making sure that the finest quality editions of this book were out. We shipped the first run of this book in September, and it sold out immediately. So we were waiting for Aperture to get us more books, and it is back in stock and in stores now. The perfect time for your holiday gift-giving needs. Anybody in your life who is interested in photography should have this book on their shelves for sure. And this book was published again this year, as it is the centenary of Robert Frank's birth. So there you go. And I hope you have a fascinating discussion right now about how important Robert Frank is and how beautiful this book is going to look on people's shelves.
It really is it's a gorgeous book. We have it in stock. As Julia says, she needs the book. You don't have it already, Julia?
I don't know why I have never picked it up, but I'm glad to get one with this introduction by Jack Kerouac. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. We just got some in recently, and it's an absolutely gorgeous and important book, and another fabulous gift to add to the pile. You definitely know someone who wants this book, or it's you who wants it. So excellent. Thanks, Andrea. All right, back to you, Brittany.
So my next book is called For She Is Wrath, and the author is Emily Varga. It's a debut young adult novel from Wednesday Books. It was out on October 29th, and it is a kind of romantasy that takes place in a sort of alternate universe fantasy Pakistan, and it is a gender-bent retelling of The Count of Monte Cristo. And what I love about this book is that it is a standalone. So there are not a lot of kind of YA romantasy titles these days that aren't part of a series or a duology. And this one is a single volume. The story is self-contained in this one book. And I truly believe that the ending is very satisfying, and it leaves you wanting more, but it also at the same time feels like the story has been told and you don't need to worry about like picking things up in a second book or having to wait another year or even 6 months for book 2 to come out. So this is one of the debuts on our list in 2024 that I was most excited about, and I would love to see it get the same kind of love out of house that everyone at Macmillan has for this book.
That's great to hear that it has so much the in-house support. Does it have sprayed edges though? This is my question.
It has a very pretty package. It does not have sprayed edges. The cover itself is very, very lovely.
The cover is gorgeous. No, the cover is really beautiful. Yeah. This is actually one of the things I love about there's so much there's so many young adult titles that do have like bells and whistles now in the packaging, sprayed edges, lots of things that I never thought would get sprayed edges are getting sprayed edges, and the sprayed edges are getting ever more complex and really super pretty. But this is one of those things that I I think is great because people love to collect these pretty books, and they read them. And I'm see people, readers. No, we don't need it for everything, but but um, people like to have the. I mean, we one of our booksellers is one of these readers. She's an avid reader. This is probably one that she's like picked out, and she's probably read it already. But she likes to have, she reads it in multiple versions, and then she has sort of the pristine. I think it's great. I think that anything that actually readers are reading the books, but they also are kind of into the books as objects as well. They're not just picking up the books because they're furniture. They're reading them and they're appreciating them. So I'm all for it. I think it's great, the packaging. And I love that it's a retelling of the Count of Monte Cristo, which is also wonderful. And I love that it's a standalone because this time of year we get, a lot of people coming in with lists that their kids or their significant others or their grandkids have written out for them. Just had a lady come in the other day and she had a very, very long list that was clearly written out by like a 9-year-old or something. And she was like looking for these series books. So this is great also that it's because she didn't know which one she'd read or anything like that. So perfect for a it's a debut and then more to come. So yeah, excellent. Thank you so much, Brittany.
Thank you.
All right. Back to you, Julia. No.
All
yes.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back to you. Okay.
Thanks, Deborah. Yeah, so my next one, I took a little bit of a gamble with this one just because I think it's a really interesting book, even though I kind of like don't know anything about the topic. So this is called 1000 Vines, A New Way to Understand Wine. And this is by Pascaline Lepelletier. And I usually don't, it's a little bit pricey in that it's like a $55 book, but it's big. It's a chunk of a book.
It's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of books. It's a lot of books.
Exactly. Yeah. But when, I just found this so fascinating. And I grew up in Northern California in, when sort of wine exploded out of Northern California. Obviously they've been growing wine in Napa since the 70s or so, maybe a little earlier. But when I was a kid, it was like, that's when they really started exploding. And where I was in the Monterey Bay area, it started growing wine grapes as well. I know anyone who's lived in California for the past, few decades, I feel like so many areas now have wine grapes that didn't used to. So I feel like we're sort of smack in the middle of this. But what I think is so interesting about it, first of all, this created I love a book that creates chaos amongst its sort of demographic that it's aiming at. So amongst wine growers and wine connoisseurs, this book really kind of blew up everything that everyone knew. And it's a new way to look at wine. She looks at it sort of through the nature behind how wine is grown, how grapes are grown. One of the best comparisons to this book is actually the book The Hidden Life of Trees, which I think is one of Andrea's books, that came out a number of years ago and was about how trees are all interconnected. That's sort of how this book takes on wine and looks at all different aspects of wine tasting, wine growing, aging, all of the different things that go into making wine, and how one of the main things it looks at is how climate change changes that, and changes how all of that stuff is done now. But also Pascaline Lepelletier is the number 4 in the world sommelier. She is a big name in wine culture. And so her putting out this book and sort of changing the framework in which people look at wine was a huge thing. It caused a huge splash. And I just think if you have people in your life that are into wine, I feel like this is such a great gift item for them. I feel like it's what I know is these little chunks that I've read, and then also other people who are very into wine explaining to me how much of a like a bombshell this was. But I think for people, you know, in California who, I mean, I definitely have family that works in the wine industry, and like I just think it's, you know, it's a really great book for people who are interested in that kind of thing, and also for people who are interested in how climate change sort of changes industries like this. Yeah, and Andrea, I agree with Andrea. It's a very beautiful package, and it's a really cool book. So,
and I agree with both of you. It is a beautiful package. When I pulled it out the other day, actually, and was looking at it, and yeah, it's, I mean, you get it's a lot of bang for the buck here for sure. It's and as Joey points out, that someone named Pascaline Lepelletier is born to write about wine and be involved with wine. But let's face it, everybody knows somebody who's really into wine. It's really interesting. I mean, wine, there's been a lot of parody about vinophiles and, you know, the whole culture around it and everything. But it's fascinating, especially when you start drilling down. And I think with a lot of the things that we eat and drink, baking is about science. That's so much, for me, it's so much value added, you know, like sourdough. Well, how does it do that? You know, kind of a thing.
totally.
And wine is right in there. And I think with the climate change aspect of it as well, it makes it really a very involving and interesting book. And it is gorgeous. So I think that this would make a great gift as well, Julia. And I know you've gone far with your boozy books, the whiskey one from the bourbon one. I'm sorry,
Urban Land.
Yeah, that's a great book too. So
yeah, one of my favorites to buy people. But yeah, I think
another quick plug for that one.
Yeah, totally.
And wine is not enough. Thanks, Julia. All right, Kelsey, back to you.
So I'm going in a totally different direction because that's always what I like to do. My second book today is Everett Green, The Not So Christmas Tree by Freddie Wexler. We just actually did an event with Freddie Wexler on Sunday. He's a Grammy-nominated, award-winning songwriter, also works in the film industry. So he wrote this children's book. It's an absolute delight. It is about a small plastic palm tree who sees the Rockefeller Christmas tree on television and decides that that's what he wants to be. So he decides to go on an adventure and go to New York City because he saw the Christmas tree and he thinks New York City is the capital of Christmas. But unfortunately, when he gets to the airport, all of the flights to New York City have been delayed and they are snowed, and so they can't. He's just sitting at the airport trying to figure out what he's going to do. And the moral of the story is that he decides he's going to become a Christmas tree in the airport for everyone who is stuck waiting for flights out of the airport. And he realizes that Christmas is really about bringing joy no matter where you are. And it's delightful. It's got great, super colorful illustrations. And it's just a fun, cute read to remind us about what the holiday season should really be about. We have lots of copies at the store, so stop by and pick up a copy for any cute small child you know.
I love this book so much. This is the sweetest, cutest book. I love this book. It's a double whammy. It's a great gift book. It's a great a holiday book. It's a great anytime book, and the art is absolutely adorable. The story is really sweet, and I'm assuming the copies are signed. That
I think they should be. I haven't checked all of them, but yeah,
okay.
They should.
But
be.
Probably there's a bunch of signed ones, so it's a good time to pick them up this weekend, I think. Right?
Yeah.
While they last.
Certainly.
And yeah. And as always, I'm glad we're talking about kids' books because this is a great time to find gifts for the kids. So thank you, Kelsey.
Yeah.
All right, Andrea.
Okay. Let's hope this doesn't happen again, but it is a very good exercise in, just, lack of, I guess, deprivation, like, sensory deprivation. So I wanted to talk about a new series from one of our favorite local independent publishers, Unnamed Press. This imprint is called Smith and Taylor Classics, and it's a new series that has been handpicked by unnamed editors Allison Miriam Smith and Brandon Taylor. Allison Smith is a young, up-and-coming, brilliant editor, and Brandon Taylor, equally as brilliant, not only edits and has a fine eye, but is a great critic and writer himself. This whole series is they're less widely represented in other classics series, and featured beautiful illustrations along with the text. And the thing that really sets these apart is that instead of having just a regular, a sort of, it's now common that there's an introduction to introduce said classics to a new audience, but instead of an introduction, there's actually an exchange between two enthusiasts of these books. So it can be an exchange between critics, writers, academics, even scientists, anybody who happens to know a thing or two about the titles that we're talking about. The series starts off with Twilight Sleep by Edith Wharton, and that is named for an early anesthetic that was given to women giving birth, and it predates the epidural and unfortunately induced memory loss. So this is a book that has been overlooked by Wharton in her canon, that deals with motherhood and the pressures that lead women to reconstruct or completely escape their lives. And despite all of that, it is sharp and humorous, and remains as relevant today as it did in the 1920s, and perhaps even more relevant in the last few years, considering what's going on in this country with the rollback of women's reproductive rights. And I just wanted to briefly mention the other books in the series that are out and at Diesel and Camino right now. That would be, of course, Twilight Sleep, Edith Wharton's, and then The Odd Women by George Gissing, The Country of the Pointed Firs by Sarah Orne Jewett, and The Toilers of the Sea, Victor Hugo. These are super handsome covers, and they are coming out in trade paperback original format, which I think is good, and I just, you can't go wrong with that. It's just a little bit of an aid as we're going into the holiday season. Don't have to spring for a hardcover. So that's it, Smith and Taylor.
It's a good looking series, a really good looking series, actually. And I love the covers. I don't, Joey, I don't suppose you have any of the other covers, do you? That we could take a look at. But anyway, it's a terrific series. They're very good looking books, and I am, like you, fascinated. Oh, he's working on it. Okay, great. We'll see those in a second. Fascinated that Edith Wharton wrote about this, right? Yeah. I've had Twilight Sleep. Do not recommend. They still give it. By the way, just why. Yeah. All right. Well, Joey will pop up the covers at some point. It's a fantastic looking set, so recommend that. And then we're gonna go over back to Brittany. I'm sorry, I really got the order messed up. It's the technical difficulties with my brain. So Brittany, why don't you give us your last book of the day?
Yeah, so the last book that I'm going to talk to you about today is called Custodians of Wonder. Now, I should preface this book is not out yet. It comes out on December 10th. But this is one of those books that I think is a sleeper for the holidays. This is the kind of book that you need to give to that person in your life where you're like, I don't really know what to give them for the holiday season, but I know that they're interested in just the world. What I like about this book is that it's a narrative nonfiction that's also part travelogue, it's part history. It's perfect for fans of books like History of the World in Six Glasses. What this book does is it takes a look at ancient customs and traditions around the world and the last people who are keeping the traditions alive. So, for instance, you can go to Italy and you can meet the woman who knows how to make the rarest form of pasta. You can go to Japan and you can meet the man who has the original 700-year-old soy sauce recipe. It's just full of these little sort of anecdotal travel stories that are also pieces of history and pieces of culture. It's perfect for armchair travelers. It's also perfect for aspirational travelers, people who might want to go to these places and experience these things at some point. Or it's just good for people who are curious about the world and want to learn something new.
I saw an advance, don't be jealous, an advanced copy of this digital advanced copy, and I am so excited. I love this kind of thing. There's so many people who absolutely are into all of these kinds of things, but I going back and seeing there's one coming about just Irish folk remedies, and that's fascinating. These are great. They're so interesting to look at. So I was super excited about it, and I will be getting a hard copy. And there's plenty of people who I can think of who would love it and be a great gift. So this is right in my wheelhouse. And it doesn't matter if it's not out yet, you can pre-order it. And you will have it in time for the holidays. So perfect. Thank you, Brittany.
Out very, very soon.
Yes. I mean, let's see. Where are we? It's already, the first is already Sunday, right? Yeah, I don't know.
It
Where
comes
are
in
we?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
So about December 10th.
Plenty of time. So put that one on your list. Looks really great. So thanks, Brittany. All right. Julia, your last book of the day.
Okay, I saved my sort of personal favorite for last. This one comes out on Tuesday, so on December 3rd. And it's called Sweet Vidalia. And this is by Lisa Sandlin. This is a novel. Lisa Sandlin, it's sort of a novel about a woman. Lisa Sandlin has written quite a lot of thrillers and crime novels for a smaller press out of Texas. And this is her first with a big publishing house. So this book, while it is not a thriller, it does sort of pull you through like a thriller. This book is about a woman whose husband, in the first chapter, the first page basically, drops dead in the doorway as she comes home. And she has to sort out, their life, their house and their car and, the things you do when someone dies. And I also hate when that happens, Joey. And what she realizes is that her husband has been leading sort of a second life. He has another family that he is financially supporting. They do not own the house that they live in. They do not own the car. They have major debt. And so she is sort of left destitute. Now, one thing I didn't say is that this takes place in the 1960s. So as you may or may not be aware, women were not allowed to own property or rent apartments or have a credit card in the 1960s. So she is really not in a good place. We'll say. I was going to say a different word, but she's not in a good place. And and this is her story of sort of climbing back up, climbing to her feet. And getting her life back on track. I think, unfortunately, I think it is a novel that echoes pretty well in some of the things that we see going on today. I think I know, sorry. But I think like also you are just so there for this ride with her. And it's just a phenomenal novel. I absolutely blitzed through it when I read it. And I thought that I wanted my mom to read it with her book club. Like, it feels like such a book club book. One that I think you could really dig into the sort of politics of, and also the experience of. Because I think sometimes we think about things as political issues rather than real experiential issues. This book really like sort of highlights that. So it's wonderful. Sweet Vidalia by Lisa Sandlin. It comes out Tuesday, and I highly recommend it.
I'm obsessed with this cover. It's
pretty
such
good.
A fantastic, yeah, absolutely love this cover. And I really want to read it. And it is reminding me of the book that your book that I love, Julie, but I can't remember the title. Also set in the 60s with the woman in the swimming pool. The woman in the swimming pool.
Oh yeah. Yes, of course.
Oh, good. I'm not the only one.
Anthony, the
most. Thank you. The Most, which is a fantastic book, and as you know, I love it, and it was a book club pick, and I think that this is it kind of reminds me a little bit of that.
Totally.
Just from the description, I haven't read it yet, but I'm on it. I love it. So,
and that one was longlisted for the National Book Award too.
It was, and I was so happy to see that. That was a surprise because it was a bit of a sleeper. Excellent. Well, Andrea's got her mic to work. I'm glad you're at the end of it. But I'm glad because so I can tell you did a great job, Andrea. Great job. Not here.
Thank you.
I'm
very odd. Very odd.
Right now, I don't know what that is about. So I'm going to wrap it up for the day, and thank everybody for joining us today. And that would be Julia Callahan from Hachette, Andrea Tetrick from PGW, Under Dire Circumstances, Brittany Greenway from Macmillan, and Kelsey in Brentwood, Joey doing the work behind the scenes, and everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate you all. I hope you have a fabulous Thanksgiving holiday coming up here. And just remember, this is our big weekend in the Indies. From now, it's our big weekend, but through the holidays. And so Small Business Saturday, that comes after the day after Thanksgiving. And that's our day. So shop local, y'all, support your indies. We're here for you with all of these books and more. And we will be back next week to give you some more gift ideas and discuss more books with more reps and more booksellers. So until then, hope you will come back. Thanks for bearing with us this week. And hope you come back next week, and we will see you all then. Have a great holiday, everybody.